Whoa, time for guest hosts. Whoa, it's time for guest hosts. Whoa, love the guest hosts. I just want a guest host.
It's episode 19 of Guest Host Raw, the series where I look at every episode of the guest host era of Monday Night Raw. Well, based on the way they sold it to us the week before and the week after, one would think that we are still feeling the effects of what went down at Bragging Rights. Well, no, we're not. The Big Piss Bowl doesn't even make an appearance this week, nor do I think it shows up ever again until the next year's Bragging Rights. So, wasn't that fun, everybody? Survivor Series. This show comes to us from the DCU Center in Worcester, Massachusetts on November 2nd, 2009. $25, please. The show begins right away with OZZY and Sharon Osbourne. This week's guest host, Justin Roberts, introduces them as the Prince of Darkness, OZZY Osbourne, and Mrs. Darkness, his wife, Sharon Osbourne. And there's the fog rolling in the ring. You see OZZY sitting there on the big black throne. It's actually the same exact throne they use for every King of the Ring coronation scene. They just painted it up a little bit differently to make it look darker, I guess. So, and Sharon's standing next to the throne, and with OZZY, now I don't know if this is some effect of Parkinson's disease or maybe he was just very excitable, but there was a lot of like stand up, sit down from OZZY throughout the entire night, just in this opening bit as Crazy Train is playing on the PA system. Like he sits down, stands up, sits down, sits and stares directly into the hard cam for the longest time, and then wants to stand, is made not to stand, stands up anyway, and then welcomes the fans to Monday Night Raw. He does all aboard, ha 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 ha. OZZY's full of catchphrases. You pull a string, he'll say something familiar to OZZY fans throughout the course of this show. So Sharon's like, this isn't the first time OZZY's been in a WWE ring. Take a look at this. And they show highlights of OZZY accompanying the British Bulldogs to the ring for WrestleMania 2. And then it cuts back and Sharon's like, now OZZY, do you remember that day? And OZZY's like, no, I do not, which is funny, but it's also true. OZZY, famously said he has no memory of being there during this entire time. So that's a shoot. Suddenly, the U.S. champion, The Miz, interrupts the proceedings. OZZY stands up, and The Miz is doing his really shtick. Sharon really throws it back at him a lot throughout this segment here. And so he's saying, he was a victim of a miscarriage of justice last week. How last week he lost by countout to Evan Bourne, and he wants that match to be stricken from the record and the decision to be overturned right away. And so OZZY just goes, who the bloody hell are you? Sharon just shouts, really, back at him again. And The Miz is about to do his catchphrase when suddenly the Legacy appear. And we get Sharon. Sharon laughs at a lot of things at weird times, too. Laughs during Legacy's entrance here. OZZY sits again. Cody says, you're complaining about a count-out loss? That is so petty of you. How about our real problem that we had last week where Kofi Kingston destroyed this really expensive gift we bought for Randy Orton? And Ted's like, I paid for most of it. And they talk about how Kofi destroyed the Randy Orton NASCAR and they deserve retribution. They want a handicap match with Kofi. And then Miz tells them to wait their turn. Sharon shouts, really, at him again. Then, well, it's the big show who makes his way to the ring. Good Lord, how many heels are going to interrupt each other throughout the course of this segment? And so Big Show goes, don't listen to these whiners and complainers. Last week, I was assaulted by all the members of the Raw locker room, and I am owed an apology. And OZZY just goes, I am so sorry, which was great timing, great delivery by OZZY there. And then Big Show says, no, I want the entire locker room to come out and apologize to me face to face, because if not, they're gonna get this. I can just imagine kind of like that scene where everyone's lining up and getting in the ring to get slapped in the face by Antonio Inoki. I want that, but with the Big Show just like KO punching everyone who comes up to apologize to him. So Big Show has his fist up to OZZY's face, and OZZY just goes, Sharon! Like, yes, this is an appropriate time to bust out another classic OZZYism. Suddenly, break it down. Out come D-Generation X. Oh, goody! Just what this segment needed. And then my favorite part of this, though, is they're making their entrance. We see OZZY standing. It cuts away for 2 seconds. It cuts back. He's sitting again. Also, Shawn has one of the DX armbands around his thigh, like over his jeans, for some reason, that's a very interesting look, and all the heels are standing in a line on one side of the ring as DX are there. So Triple H has a mic and says, you know, DX and OZZY have a lot in common. For instance, OZZY, you've got a new book that's out, and DX, we also have a book that's out, and they all just kind of cheese for the hard cam, showing the books and everything, and OZZY just looks really happy to be there. Triple H goes, we're gonna settle all these issues Wizard of Oz style, or more like Blizzard of Oz style, right, OZZY? And then OZZY just like goes, like does the fangs thing. Like, what the fuck? So Triple H is gonna solve all the heels' problems one at a time, and more showing, they're really telegraphing secretly what the future of WWE is gonna look like in like 16 years from now, because at this point they're literally just feeding information to the guest hosts. Triple H whispers into OZZY's ear, and so then OZZY looks at Miz and goes, he's gonna fight Evan Brunn tonight. Evan Brunn! And then Triple H says something else. He goes, for the United States title. So then it's Shawn's turn. He tells Legacy, hey, I can't help you with WrestleMania tickets going on sale this Saturday, so if you want to get to WrestleMania, you got to buy tickets like everyone else, guys. And then it just cuts to this shot of Cody and Ted kind of smirking their way through that. That was a great reaction by them. But then he whispers into Sharon's ear, and she says, tonight it will be Kobe Kingston facing his opponent, Randy Orton. Kobe Kingston. Oh my God, 0 for 2 from the Osbournes this week. Kobe Johnston's Kingston. Poor Kofi Kingston getting his name butchered 2 weeks in a row. So then it's Big Show's turn, and he says, maybe I don't want an apology. Maybe I want a preview of Survivor Series. Maybe we should have John Cena versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So he says that out loud, and he's like, I can play your game too, guys. Watch this. So he just whispers into OZZY's ear, one thing at a time. It'll be a triple threat match with John Cena. And then like Show turns around, and that gives Triple H the chance to whisper the rest of the match into OZZY's ear, and he goes with Chris Jericho and the Big Show. Get it? Because OZZY is old and feeble and easily manipulated? Woohoo! Rock and roll! But then Big Show's complaining about it, and then Sharon's like, oh, his word is final, and if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. So yeah, that was the opening segment. It was very interesting, very up and down, that one. OZZY, God bless him, he had a lot of energy, I will say that. But yeah, the big story is apparently he can just be easily motivated by anyone who whispers into his ear. Also, Evan Brunn and Kobe Kingston. Last week on Raw, they cut out the part where Jack Swagger said G's or cheese. We go back to the ring. The Miz is already there to defend his U.S. title against Evan Brunn. Here we go again, y'all. Miz gets the stomping early on, but Bourne fights back, hits an over-the-top Meteora, and has a pretty good run for a bit. I'm so sick of this directive they had where it's like every matchup involving the U.S. Championship, they have to mention on commentary all the different Hall of Famers who once held it. Every U.S. title match, they mention it. They might still do it now, for all I know, but they definitely bring that up often and early in U.S. title matches. So Bourne goes for the shooting star press. Miz rolls out of the way. We get this cool like hip toss bump into the turnbuckles that allows for Miz to hit the skull-crushing finale to retain in a match we have definitely seen before. And the Miz is celebrating on stage, and I'm like, no Jack Swagger? We're not gonna follow up on that at all? Okay. We see Josh Matthews in the promo zone with the Celtic Warrior Sheamus, who just debuted the previous week on Raw. And he goes, Sheamus, you have one-on-one match with Jamie Nobleboy tonight. Are you planning on doing anything to impress the guest hosts? And Sheamus goes, as far as I'm concerned, Ozzy Osbourne's career should have been over a long time ago. But tonight, I'm going to make sure that Jamie Noble's career will be over. And we cut back to the announcers, and Cole says, well, King, we saw him run through all that young, impressive roster in ECW, and we're about to witness firsthand just what he can do. And I'm like, didn't you witness firsthand what he could do last week? Just feels like they kind of retconned it like for a while, because they're acting as if this is the debut of Sheamus. for a very long time as he goes one-on-one with Jamie Nobleboy. I guess, Sheamus must not have had that good a first impression like he said he was going to if they're going to have a do-over. So Sheamus just beats the bricks off Noble from the gate. He just hits him with a running elbow and just never really lets up. Lawler quietly mentions during this matchup that, hey, this is a rematch from last week. I'm surprised somebody did. So Nobleboy is out on his feet as Sheamus hits another big brogue kick. He goes for the cover, but he picks Nobleboy up, and he's not done yet. He throws him in the corner. He just keeps kicking too much ass. The referee eventually stops the match because Noble is unresponsive. He's unable to defend himself, but Sheamus is not done. He picks Noble up. He puts him on the corner. He kicks him off. Big tumble to the outside by Jamie, and then we get this disgusting standing power bomb, like jackknife style from Sheamus, where he just goes bam, like drops Jamie Noble so damn hard on the floor, and the face that Noble makes immediately after, and the sounds that Jamie makes for the next several minutes after he takes that bump are so just haunting and unsettling and gross. That was crazy how they absolutely wiped out Noble here. Sheamus looking like a killer as trainers and EMTs are checking on this poor guy who's been just totally broken in half. And I can't believe there's this one asshole who's in the front row just shouting, "He's a bum! He's a bum! Ha 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 ha!" Like, dude, shut the hell up. But Jesus, that was a statement. You don't really see jobber beatdowns that pronounced and that vivid like this one was. It also makes you wonder why Sheamus never did that level of beating again with anyone else over the course of the career he has had since then. It is a hell of a way to end the full-time career of Jamie Noble. This was his kind of last hurrah. He would have one more match after this, I think at a house show many years later, but for this point on, he was pretty much exclusively producing. He's a great wrestler, former Ring of Honor world champion, but I think his size really limited a lot of what he was allowed to do as a wrestler. But of course, he's given back to the company 20 times over as a producer backstage. We get a recap of last week's Raw where Kofi Kingston destroyed Randy's special car. We get Josh Matthews catching up to him on his way to the ring, asking if he has any regrets for what he did last week. And Kofi's like, Randy Orton's a classic bully and blaming his shortcomings on everybody else. But, I'm not going to be bullied so easily. And he talks about how, he messed up the hood and the paint job and the windshield and all this stuff. But the one thing he kept in place and the one thing he didn't break was the one thing Randy Orton probably uses the most, the mirror. So he'd be able to look at himself and understand why he's no longer the WWE champion. And he says, he has no regrets. This was a really good, great babyface promo by Kingston. It's probably the most opportunity he's had to speak since he lost his Jamaican accent. And I think, again, much like last week, this is going a long way in just further establishing he's not just he's not just a smiling guy who can jump very great distances and whatnot. He actually has a personality. He actually has moods. So up next, Randy Orton takes on Kobe Johnston's Kingston in one-on-one action. This is not the stupid match, so we're not going to get that just yet. But fans are big into Kofi for this, as he's really on top of Orton early on. Legacy runs down, and Kofi dives onto all three of them, and he's being cornered. And suddenly, we see Ozzy and Sharon up in the Oz zone, and it's up on the big screen. Ozzy's like, "Hey, wait a minute. You know what? I knew this was going to happen." How did you know that? You had people whispering match ideas into your ear the last time we saw you. How do you even know who the Legacy is at this point? So Sharon says, "So we're going to make it a 6-man tag team match." And then she pulls on the string and Ozzy goes, "Let the madness begin." Ha ha ha. And so sure enough, we get MVP and Mark Henry showing up. They're the ones who actually beat the Legacy last week. And it's 6-man tag team match time, playa. We come back from commercial to the match in progress, and boy, you just know the message boards were alight when this matchup was made as they see those three in the ring going, "Oh, is this going to be a new nation?" MVP takes the heat partway through the match, but he fights his way out of it. Gets a big hot tag to Mark Henry, who's a house of fire. Orton wants to sneak in and hit Mark with his KO, but Kofi is actually able to get him knocked out of the ring, eliminate him from the issue. Strongest slam alive to Cody for Mark Henry to win for the team. I thought it was a decent enough match. match. The bigger takeaway is that Kofi is getting another one up on Orton here. I think that it is really rare at this time for there to be like a good, competent babyface who is like consistently booked well against established heels at this point, unless you're John Cena. That's literally like it pretty much. So for Kofi at this point on Raw to be getting a run, even as like small as this one seems at this point, seems like a big deal. They play a clip of The Art of Dying's Get Through This, as it's the Survivor Series theme, and I was getting big NXT flashbacks because they use that song for when the hosts and the contestants made their way out as well. Up next, it is Raw's Got Talent, or if you look at the front of the table they're using, WWE's Got Talent. I guess they couldn't decide between the graphics department. And so it's going to be like America's Got Talent. You've got OZZY and Sharon Osbourne as two of the guests, and then you've got the special third guest judge. It's the Great Khali, accompanied by his interpreter, Ranjin Singh. And the first thing that happens is Khali sits down, he speaks in his native language, and then Jerry Lawler says, "Oh, if my interpretation is correct, guys, he was saying he has a crush on your daughter, Kelly." And like, wait, what? Why is Jerry Lawler doing the translating? What the hell's Ranjin Singh there for? He's the one who speaks for the Great Khali. So Lawler introduces the first contestant. Here to sing Bark at the Moon, it's Santino Marella, who comes out dressed like some weird-ass version of like Teen Wolf. It's a combination of Teen Wolf and Scott Stapp. That was the vibe I got from this. So Santino goes, he's not going to be singing Bark at the Moon. Instead, he's going to bite the head off a bat. And so Crazy Train plays again on the PA system, and he pulls out a Batman action figure, and he thinks about it for a second. He's really psyching himself up, and finally he bites the head off the Batman action figure, and he gets kind of sick, and he's getting like buzzed out by the judges, presumably. Oh, he's so bad at this. Okay, up next, Chris Masters comes out doing a special performance to Crazy Train. So they play that song again. Chris Masters comes out, and this is like the highlight of his entire second run in WWE. It's a gift and a curse for this man because he comes out and he does like a pectoral dance to the beat of like the bass line from Crazy Train, and then like it picks up and he's just flexing them over and over, and like the look on Ozzy's face is amazing. Like he is so happy and overjoyed like by this presentation that Masters had, and Sharon's having a good time. But yeah, it was amazing. Push that man immediately because that was great. The crowd loved it. Masters has said in later interviews he was not a fan of having to do that, did not want to do it, was eventually just talked into it, and fine, I'll give it my all, whatever, I'll give it the best of my abilities. And then it became kind of a curse for him because then they would just keep doing that joke over and over. And boy, that's so unlike WWE to hear that they would do that, and then also I'm like, oh, I'm just like setting myself up for being repeatedly exposed to this joke now that I know it's being reminded that it's going to be happening again. Then up next, it's Chavo Guerrero and Jillian doing a duet. Now, if you go back and watch this on like a repeat or whatever, they butchered this whole part of the segment because of all the song rights issues, but you can find the original if you know where to look on YouTube. So it starts out with Jillian gushing over the Osbournes, and then they're going to sing the duet with Ozzy and Lita Ford, Close My Eyes Forever. And so they're playing the karaoke song, and of course they butcher it, and everyone's looking upset by this. And it's like they're telling Jerry to push the button to buzz. I'm like, guys, you all have buttons. Like, push them. Like, that's what the whole fucking gimmick is. So then Ozzy says, I'm going to retitle this song to Close My Ears Forever. And so then, Jillian and Chavo hit the switch and like, oh, actually, you suck. You don't know anything about talent. I was never a fan of Ozzy anyway. And Sharon, you've always been jealous of Lita Ford. And so then Sharon calls out Jillian and says, why don't you come down here, you fat cow, you tubby? Why don't you come to Jesus? So calls her fat and challenges her to come to the ring. And Jillian starts singing Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. Again, this part is cut. So like Jillian like literally teleports like from the ramp into the ring where she's singing in Sharon's face, and then Jillian just kind of like shoves her or hits her in the face and knocks her down to this big pop. And then Chavo tells Ozzy, you got to control your wife, man. And Ozzy, with a great delivery in this, was like, me? You should try, man. I can't do it. That was great by Ozzy. So then Chavo gets in Sharon's face, and they're talking smack. Great Khali stands up from his seat, and then he knocks out Chavo where he stands. So then he falls over. And then, all of a sudden, we hear Hornswoggle's music play. And he comes down dressed like Jack Osbourne if he were put in the dryer for too long. He's got the big fro and the glasses and the shirt and the tie and everything. He runs in there and says, oh, it's just like Jack Osbourne. And he does the tadpole splash to Chavo, who's already in position. Jesus Christ, can we please end this fucking storyline between Chavo and Hornswoggle, please? Stop taking L's from Hornswoggle, Chavo. And then how do we wrap this segment up? Let's play Crazy Train one more time to play us out to commercial. Oh my God, this was pure sports entertainment dreck. There are some big takeaways from this segment. There are some gems that are hidden in the dirt if you know just how to brush certain dirt flecks away. We see Kelly saying hi to the Bella twins. Hey, there's Eve Torres and Gail Kim, all smiles. Everybody's friends in a battle royal. Then we find out that, next week's episode of Raw is going to be from Sheffield, England, and the guest host then is going to be the British light welterweight boxer Ricky Hatton, who at this point had just lost a fight to Manny Pacquiao. He's going to be hosting the next edition of Raw. We come back from break, and all the ladies we saw just before the commercial and Alicia Fox are going to be in a #1 contendership Divas Battle Royal, and none of them get entrances or anything. By the way, this is a through the ropes Battle Royal, not an over the top ropes. We're not that far yet. So you have Divas champion Melina looking on. Hey, Melina, look interested as you're watching this. No, that's more turned on. At one point, Kelly tries to eliminate one of the Bellas, but she eliminates her friend Gail instead, and she's like, oh, I'm really sorry. Oh my gosh, like she is just like wrecked and just can't do anything for 30 seconds after she does that, even though this is like every diva for herself, and they even say as much on commentary. Jack Swagger starts to slowly make his way to the ring as more eliminations happen. Swagger makes eyes at Eve, and she gets kind of creeped out and distracted by that. That allows for her to be eliminated. So we are then down to Kelly and Alicia, and so we get Kelly doing her like handspring back elbow into the corner. Alicia sells that for a second and is like, nah, fuck that, out you go, and just dumps Kelly out of the ring. And she wins. Alicia Fox is once again the #1 contender for the Divas Championship. She does a little dance. It was a less than 3-minute battle royal, and they didn't have time or ability to do much in it. And it's kind of disappointing in a way. I know last week I was like, what are they doing with The Miz and Jack Swagger? But I would rather have The Miz and Jack Swagger have a storyline where they're fighting over the U.S. title than it being Jack Swagger is being a creep to Eve. They give us an update on Jamie Nobleboy's injuries as a result of the Sheamus match, a lot of back and neck injuries, and then they show us a bragging rights recap within a SmackDown recap, and then we go back to the Oz zone for the first time all night since we saw them like on the big screen making that 6-man match. We finally get a skit where the hosts are backstage in their zone. OZZY and Sharon are kind of sharing a moment, and then Chris Jericho shows up behind them, and we're just getting kind of a repeat of like this same, template boilerplate segment that Jericho does with the guest hosts. Oh, once again, the Osbournes are like making a mockery of Raw like every guest host we have here. Nobody's checking in or consulting with me, Chris Jericho, and he says that he's got talent and he's the best in the world at what he does. And he actually does kind of have a personal twist to it at this point, because he says, I'm the best in the world at what I do, and I learned that, through you, OZZY. It's because of you, because he says he grew up being a huge fan of OZZY. He went to his concerts, he listened to his records front to back, knows all the lyrics. He grew his hair out and he dyed his tips purple like OZZY did. He would pander out to the crowd, and then he realized one day he didn't need to pander to them anymore because he realized he was better than them. And so now he's even better than OZZY Osbourne as well. So he says, so don't you disrespect me again, bud, as he walks out. And then as he does that, they have this conversation, Sharon and OZZY are like, oh, what a weirdo. Oh, it's so crazy. Oh, OZZY says, oh, people think I'm crazy. He's crazy. Oh. So that's pretty much where it ends. Funny story about that. According to Jericho's book, the original line that the writers wanted was for OZZY to say, what a wanker. But they had to protest and say, no, we shouldn't do that because this is actually a word like you shouldn't say on TV before 9 p.m. in the UK. Like it's a bad word here, so let's not say that. It's a nothing segment. It's great for, you know, Jericho's resume. Hey, he got to share screen time with OZZY Osbourne. Like, good for you. But besides that, it's like really didn't add to the story at all. Like, shouldn't Jericho be at least somewhat complaining to them about the match they made that he is in coming up in the main event? That was weird. Elsewhere backstage, we see DX talking legal business with somebody. The camera pans over and we see Hornswoggle, who has been hung up on the wall by a hook, as DX are basically harassing him, saying, hey, you can't be dressed up like us and stealing our bit for the next 2 weeks. It's a very specific window of time they're giving there. But like, I don't get the logic behind why they're giving Hornswoggle the cease and desist, because the whole logic is, okay, he's stealing our bit because he's wearing our merch and he's doing our taunts. Like, shouldn't you then be suing all the fans for gimmick infringement because they're buying all your merch and doing the taunts? So then John Cena comes to the rescue and he unhooks Hornswoggle and he tells DX, you shouldn't hang a leprechaun on a hook. My uncle hung a leprechaun on a hook once. And I'm like, fuck yes, Johnny Dangerously reference. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Cena's like, he's the reason we're even in this matchup at Survivor Series in the Triple Threat, which is also great logic. Hey, Hornswoggle is getting back at DX for the cease and desist by getting them a title match. So anyway, Hunter and Sean remind Cena, hey, we've both beaten you recently. And then Cena's like, well, I've beaten you, you've beaten me, we beat each other all the time. Which then it comes off like, oh, that sounded kind of gay, because then it pans over to the Bella Twins who listen in the whole thing and they're like, oh, that's weird. And then they walk off and then all the boys are like, oh, we look so awkward saying that now. Sean says that he graduated in physics without taking algebra, and he knows that DX has a mathematical advantage in that matchup for the title against Cena. So what do you think about that? And Cena goes, you know, your law degree and your physics degrees are all shams. Why are you guys talking like this? This is, what weirdo cartoon are we living in at the moment? Cena says anything can happen in a triple threat. Even you guys could beat each other up in that match. And you'll check out this triple threat I'm about to be in. You can get a look at that for yourself. And then Survivor Series, I have 4 words for you, and then looks right at the camera and goes, the champ is here. And then he leaves, and DX is like, oh, I'm tired of people stealing our shtick. What an odd segment this was. Like, is anything on this show serious? Like, there were some funny lines and some funny bits in this. Again, taking a line from Johnny Dangerously is mwah. You know, I'll never get enough of that movie. But is this how we're building tension for the most richest and biggest and bestest prize in the game ahead of the pay-per-view? Main event time, a triple threat non-title match as John Cena takes on The Big Show and Chris Jericho. And you have Triple H and Shawn joining commentary, just talking over everyone and everything during the entrances of this matchup here. It is funny to hear them like making fun of like getting yelled at in headsets by people. Why is there no tension between The Big Show and Jericho all night leading up to this matchup? Because The Big Show got themselves into this mess. Like, he opened his big mouth. Jericho wasn't even in the opening segment. So like, why did Jericho like get them fucked like that into this matchup? And there's not even any like benefit to them doing it. And like, Jericho had no say. That's not explored at all in this. We come back from commercial. The match is in progress, and Hunter and Sean will just occasionally blurt out, oh my, during the match, which is great. We get a lot of 2-on-1, a really interesting revelation, a moment here in commentary where Sean pretty much admits like, yeah, and DX's dynamic is I'm the Robin to Triple H's Batman, essentially. And I'm surprised Triple H just didn't start going, yeah, you hear that, everybody? I'm the Knight. So for no reason, Jericho and Big Show start arguing amongst themselves as to who's going to get the pin on Cena. Again, why? Cena goes for an AA on The Big Show, but he gets smooshed. Show goes for the Vader bomb. Cena's able to move out of the way. Good for him. I think he knew that the camera was going to get a really bad angle if Show connected with that move. So Cena goes for the AA onto Jericho, but the Big Show's back up. He KO punches Cena, and then Jericho gets the cover and the win on John Cena here in this matchup. And then the tag champs share a knowing nod. They go to do some more damage to Cena, but then DX have seen enough. They want to run in and make the save, but the Big Show and Jericho end up laying out all three baby faces by the end, and they're standing tall and everything. And all I'm thinking as this show is wrapping up, it's like, wow, this is the strongest that Jericho and the Big Show have ever looked together as a team. And I'm wondering, why aren't these guys in the title match at the pay-per-view instead of DX? So that is going to do it for this episode of Raw. I'm going to put it square in the middle in terms of quality. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. The show did have some boring bits and some confusing booking, but I think they did succeed in making like Kofi Kingston and Jericho look the strongest they have in literal months. As far as the hosts, OZZY and Sharon Osbourne, I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5. You know, OZZY had good energy, but there was so much of the live experience where he just looked lost out there, which was kind of sad. But the crowd is going to pop for him no matter what. You know, Raw's Got Talent was entertaining, I think, mostly on the weight of the Osbournes themselves for their like organic reactions, and also Chris Masters as well. Like, he is also the MVP of this episode. Now, as far as where I rank the Prince of and Mrs. Darkness in the all-time guest host list, I'm going to put them square in the middle here. I'm going to rank them number 9 so far, right in between Snoop Dogg and Trish Stratus. You know what? After Bush and Logano, the last installment, it's a breath of fresh air. Even if OZZY and Sharon both got names wrong, just like Bush and Logano did, at least I had a better time watching them performing than Bush and Logano. But what did you think of the Ozman and Sharon Osbourne on this episode of Raw? And how about this review? Let me know in the comment section below. Next time here on the series, we are looking at Ricky Hatton as he hosts from Sheffield, England. All that and much more next time right here on Guest Host Raw.